Happy morning to everybody, and a great afternoon and a wonderful evening for our dear friends from America and Canada, and particularly St. Louis friends too. We're entering into our third week of the program. We've done meditation 14 times. So we are here for an experience. Every living being is here for an experience. We hear this, part of our heart elevation. Every living being is here for an experience. We are here for an experience. Ultimately, life is full of events which are nothing but experiences. So we are here for an experience. Knowledge is precursor to experience, and meditation is essential for experience. Experience is not just intellectually understanding. So as a living being, we come here for our own experiences as part of a design. When we are here one after the other, one after the other, that's why we always seek new experiences. It gets boring to do the same thing again. So meditation, because it increases self-awareness, mindfulness, so we are experiencing it more vividly. Whatever, it could be travel to by flight. Earlier, if we were cribbing, being in the middle seat. Now we say, hey, what's the opportunity here? There are two people on both sides. Maybe I can talk to them. So we enhance the experience because meditation is making us more self-aware. That's exactly what we're doing, of course, in heart elevation and gratitude. We are doing it with a lot of experience, that feeling. So to live, to gain that experience, meditation is most naturally enabling it, but the knowledge is precursor to the experience, so we have to learn, we keep learning. So that's why these two are two fundamentals of growth. For newer experiences, for newer enjoyment, these two fundamental. Knowledge is precursor to the experience. We got to first learn something. Then that learning will lead to curiosity to gain more derived thoughts in the mind for us to start projecting and then taking an action so that then we lead to some experience. Right. If you first read about how to make that Italian special pasta, then only then we can even think of trying it out. If we didn't learn about it, we don't even try it out. So in quantum physics, and otherwise in neuroscience, the concept of learning, doing, and being, there is a concept of learn, do, be. We're going to learn that today. How is this brain learning, learn, do, be? I'll tell you why. This week is for us emotional intelligence. It's all about what exactly is happening when we regularly meditate. What is emotional intelligence? And then what is happening to our brain? And then it is precursor to that is that we understand how exactly the brain is learning. So it's called learn. The concept is learn, do, be. We're learning first, and then for experience, then we are doing something, and then as we practice, then we become of it. Compared to perhaps many people who may be teaching technique only, but we have to learn because knowledge is precursor to the experience, and then meditation is fundamentally the experience. So we do one part of it, and then if we go to the second part, then we can't even gain newer experiences. So we have to invest time into our book clubs or by ourselves. So dear friends, 50% is knowledge, gaining knowledge, 50% is meditation. Both have to go as two wheels, two important wheels in our journey to progress. Only if I learn how I can do a four-wheel driving on a series of classes, then I can implement it. It's pretty obvious, common sense. So whatever new experience we need, we have to continue to learn. And then we'll learn about how the learning happens through brain in today's class. And then we'll understand during this week, how is this being applied? So what happens in meditation when we are dealing with people, interactions, incidents? How is our increasing our emotional quotient? Emotional quotient are essentially, if you will, our ability to deal with people. Is what makes a great difference between a very successful businessman and not so successful businessman. Individually, we can build up this much organization. Collectively, we can build up bigger. We can do a lot bigger things. We know that. Last week is all about individually, how can I perform a lot better? My health, my energy, and then my memory powers. So this week we'll learn how can I work with people and then make it even more bigger and better for the organization, for ourselves. So relax yourself. We'll go into a breath mindfulness meditation. For those of you new, we are doing Anapanasati meditation to be with one's in-breath and out-breath. It's also simplifying and calling it breath mindfulness meditation. That means we are mindful of our own natural normal breath. So the goal is to empty our mind in meditation. So we are observing, take any point on the nose and observe that breath goes in and then breath comes out. Air going in and air coming out. Just observe. No manipulation of the breath. No forceful inhalation, no forceful exhalation. The posture for meditation is very, very simple. We'll see if I can put a slide up for some of you. I have a feeling we may have more new people today. So the posture for meditation is very simple. What you see in that person sitting on the floor or sitting in the chair. Three things we do: we remove the specs and then close our eyes, cross our fingers into fingers, and then rest them comfortably in your lap, and then cross your feet at ankles. When you close your eyes, 80% of the sensory input is shut off. That's where we lose a lot of energy. So closing eyes, crossing fingers and crossing feet, circulating the energy back into the body. So this is a simple posture. Do not need specs. Also any smart watches, anything that disturbs you need to be taken out. And then the process is simply observing our normal natural breath. Observe anywhere in the nose that breath is going and coming out. Our mind gets distracted, we got to bring it back to observing the breath. Again it gets distracted, bring it back to observe the breath. When you observe the breath may be becoming lighter or shorter. Just observe it, natural observation. The witness, non-judgmental awareness. That means you're not interpreting with what you know. If the breath is going fast, you'll try to relate it and say, oh, last time the dog was chasing me, so my breath was faster, so is it like this again? Now what is happening? Why am I doing this? Don't interpret anything. Just be a non-judgmental awareness is what we're doing. So as the breath becomes lighter, the thoughts also come lower and lower and lower. Some may experience the breath lightness, it's okay. No, don't experience, doesn't matter. But the process is going to happen where we're observing the breath, and then many times breath is becoming lighter, shorter, and then you are being with it, and finally it may become non-existent. That's the time we let go. We let go of awareness. As it becomes non-existent, we have nothing to observe, and that's the time we become totally empty. Or you would have gone off to thought before itself, and then when you recognize that you're thinking, come back to your putting your attention on the breath. So this is breath mindfulness meditation. Very, very simple. Simple to understand, but we keep practicing it, and then it becomes a natural habit for us. And before we start the process, we're doing this heart elevation, is to feel in heightened emotion like love, gratitude in our heart. Just follow my guidance actively during this process. We do it for about a few minutes. We're taking a relaxing breath initially for 2-3 minutes. We take relaxing long breaths, and then we relive an event of the past that caused us a lot of love or gratitude, compassion, appreciation, or any of those emotions which make us connect with others, connect with the nature, connect with people around, environment around more. When you express gratitude, you're naturally connecting with people. You're not breaking the relationship. So the idea of heart elevation is to connect with others more. So we're going to do that. And this has a scientific observation that it actually helps to calm the mind faster. So dear friends, relax yourself. So our meditation is going to be first heart elevation, and then I'm going to clearly say, let's go into breath mindfulness meditation. So that time you are switching your posture, heart elevation, keeping your hands here, eyes are closed, feet crossed. These two are happening throughout the meditation, throughout until we again come back out. Heart elevation, you keep your hands like this, and then follow my guidance. And then when I say, let's go into breath mindfulness meditation, that time you switch to the posture, just the hands, switch to the posture, and then keep your hands comfortably in your lap. Relax yourself. Sit comfortably. And as you're relaxing in, I want to talk about this very important concept. Learning to being. If knowledge is precursor to the experience, if a life is about experiences, and then so it's best to understand how is this brain supporting the learning, and so we know where we can place our attention. So let me put this slide up for better understand. Before, we'll be recollecting it. And if you understood the concept, then you're recollecting today to rewire it more stronger. So the three brains that we have, the brain is one. I'm talking about the brain in the head. They also said there is some small little brains in every center in the body, including this heart area. We'll talk about some other day. But the brain in the head is divided into three parts: a learning brain, a doing brain, and a being brain. The first one is the learning brain, which is the biggest part. In spiritual parlance, we also use the word conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind. Some places you will find it, some places you don't find it. It helps to understand it. So in technical terms, the frontal area is called neocortex. The second brain is called limbic brain. Third one is called reptile. Broadly in our life, learning and thinking means whatever that we learn, whatever that we take the data and then process to decisions, to learning is in the form of reading or in the form of listening, and all of that is in the learning brain. And then applying that knowledge to derive. If I see something kept in fire, then it's burning. Then I apply that knowledge. I see somebody, if their finger is kept in the fire, then they took their finger out quickly. Then I see that, then I learn it. And so I apply it next time. How do I apply it? Then I don't put my finger in the fire, because you say, oh, so this is unpainful. It's called applying, right? So we learn it and then we apply it. The most simplest we apply. An umbrella is there to shield us from sun and water. So when people come from rain, then you get wet, a child sees it and says, okay, so it's getting wet. If I want to be dry, then I need to take umbrella. So you're applying two things together. So they learn. The thinking brain is, that's the thinking brain, learning brain. So that's all in the frontal area, right here. The frontal area, the whole brain for the most part, is this learning, thinking brain. or the conscious aspect. This is called the cognitive functioning. Our decision making, our analytical skills, our creative skills, all of them are there. So it's clear that whenever we learn something from the sensory inputs that we have, the 5 sensory inputs, seeing, smelling, touching, hearing, the sensory inputs are bringing in so much information constantly bringing so much information. Billions of bits of information is coming in through the sensory inputs. And of course, eyes is the biggest one. So we receive a lot of input, and all of that is going into this first neocortex. That is various areas of the neocortex. It goes in there. So it's learning. And then the doing is where we actually, anything that is habit, anything that is belief, anything that is repeated is basically what you do, right? And if I go morning, every day I brush my teeth, it's doing it. I learn about it, I need to brush my teeth so that I keep my mouth clean of germs, and then so I start doing it. So the doing brain is that whatever that you do on a regular basis, we come to it, and it's called habit, and that happens in there. And then the being brain is where it becomes so natural. You don't think anymore. You don't feel that, okay, especially I have to do something for brushing your teeth. You just walk in, and then you pick up the brush without even realizing, and then you start doing this because it's just so integral part of you. A cook is not thinking about how much salt to put. When you are cooking, you don't think, oh, I have to plan to put this much, right? The children are fascinated when mothers are putting this much salt, this much curry powder, this much chili powder, without in measuring anything at all happening. My gosh, we always have friends who want to draw stuff on the screen. Let me unshare it and then reshare it. So the being brain is where you already learned something, so it is with you. It's like the driving, it's with us. That's exactly what's happening with meditation too. It's going to be with us that we don't even think that I have to observe or to bring my attention back to the breath. It's going to be part of us. With you close your eyes and say, you hear meditation, the first thing we do is automatically put our attention on the breath because it's so natural. We don't do it anymore, we become of it. So now what is it? So to understand how this brain is, those 3 areas are learning, what I see here in the picture is called a neural connection. There are 2 neurons. So this star thing is a neuron. This is another neuron. This is another neuron. So you've got a set of neurons on this left side picture. And each one has these spokes, and these are the connections to other neurons. And when neurons connect with each other, it's called memory. Every time we learn something, learning is equal to new connections. So every time we learn something, we make a connection. 2 neurons, suddenly these tentacles go and then join. So when learning is happening, that means when you are listening to me right now, so you're forming some connections in the neural networks. It's called neural networks are basically connections that are formed between these neurons. And this is a very fascinating sign. These neurons, how many neurons in the brain? 100 billion neurons. And how many connections a neuron can make with another neuron? Think of a neuron as 2 people, one person, another person. How many connections each of us can make with how many people we can relate to each other? That number is pretty small. We are very closely working with maybe 45 people, 49 people to 50 people, I don't know, maybe 1400, there is some equation to that. It's a different topic. But not a lot of number of people that we can simultaneously work with, but that's not the case with the neurons. Each neuron can connect with another neuron, up to 40,000 to 100,000 connections it can make. This is how, and what is a connection? Now, if I say that information, right now there is, when I go in rain, I get wet, say some neurons get formed to capture that information. Now, if I get wet, and if I carry a belief that I'm going to get sick, then there is another neuron very related. If I get wet and I get sick, very related, because the rain is getting us wet, and then I get wet, I get sick, related. So these neurons are utilizing, they're very intelligently placing themselves to learn it, learn related information together and using this, making these multiple connections with each other. So that when there is rain, suddenly we recollect both pieces of information. When there is rain, we recollect, oh, we're getting wet, and if I get wet, then I catch cold. It's a belief, by the way. A belief that is there, which is preventing us from enjoying rain. A limiting belief. So the neurons are stored, coming together to learn information that we're learning, to store information that we're learning. So practically, the amount of storage that it can have is infinite. Infinite. Because there are so many neurons and then so many connections, and connections are nothing but memory. So every time we learn something, we can store it. Trillions and trillions of information we can store. So because this capacity is infinite, and the storing, when we learn something just as text, then it uses very less connections. When you store it as image, visual, feeling, experience, then it stores in a lot of connections. Right? If you have to remember Pyramid Valley International, if I tell you there is Pyramid Valley International as a beautiful meditation center, as a word, is one thing. But if I show you a picture of Pyramid Valley and say, that is Pyramid Valley in Bangalore, then your ability to associate Pyramid Valley with Bangalore, and then that picture is, every time you hear Pyramid Valley, boom, that picture comes back. And because that picture is stored so strongly, then the Bangalore along with it is stored, so you will remember. But if it didn't show you a picture, then it is only storing a few connections. Pyramid Valley International, just as a word, is for a few connections, so we tend to forget it. So the concept is that, no, can you learn more visually, more experience with it? Now, visual picture, now along with the picture, if I narrate somebody's experience of connections. So learning is happening through forming these connections. So the more we learn visually, the more we learn with feeling, then we are creating so much of connections, we are storing it with so much connections. Now I want to relate it in the concept of relationships. If the learning is about storing, making connections, and then if you are learning with, when you're doing an argument with a manager at office, or if you're doing some kind of withdrawal syndrome with your mother-in-law or daughter-in-law, so what is happening there? And if you're driving and somebody is cutting your car, then you're so angry. And then one is, you're telling that person, stupid. While we're driving, somebody cuts across, we say stupid. Not only we say stupid, we also say with a lot of emotion. A lot of adrenaline there, so a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling. We say stupid. You didn't even know how to drive, just sitting behind the wheels. I said that, by the way, many times. We say that with a lot of feeling, and so then we are storing that particular incident with a lot of connections, not just stupid as 5 letters, but in a lot of connections, because a lot of feeling is there. The feeling of how the body felt, the environment, then all of that is recorded now. Now cells, there is a beautiful thing from a learning perspective. Nerve cells that fire together, wire together. So when do you fire nerve cells? Every time we repeat an experience, we're firing the cells again. So somebody cut across as I'm driving. So I've said, you stupid, you don't even know. And then with a lot of feeling. Now I go to office, and then I park my car, I go to first thing I do is meet my friend and say, you know what, I had a near accident, some stupid guy came in, and then he did this to me. And then again, I relive that experience. I relive that experience, and then we are making the cells fire, and then we're storing it again. We're strengthening, we're forming that many more connections. If it formed 100,000 connections first time, then you rewire it because you relive it again, so it's forming again that many more connections. So it's making stronger. An experience stronger when we relive it, repeat it. So learning is making a new connection, friends, and recollecting is making the connection stronger. And so, in our relationships, if only thing every time we're thinking about is how that person did not do things right to me, how my company did not do things right to me, how my neighbor did not do things right to me. And then we live it with an experience again and again, friends. Then we are making a stronger connection again and again. Now, where is the connection to this brains then? Where is the connection to the brains with this? The connection to the brains is this. So every time we repeat it, that repeated one, it's called the doing brain. So where we are doing it again and again, it becomes an habit. It becomes a long-term memory. It becomes a skill. So it goes into this subconscious mind. It goes into the subconscious mind. Now, 95% of the time, we're projected off the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is what it is automatically doing for you before you unconsciously do. It is doing it for us. It is projecting already. Our thoughts create reality, our feelings create reality. So the subconscious mind, what is there, projects it already for us. Now, here is the thing. Let's understand an example. Suppose you are learning that you need to be patient. You're learning through this book that our life is about learning a patience, becoming control of the emotions. When you read Conversation with God, you learn a lot of these concepts. That patience is a fundamental skill that people can take lifetimes to learn it. Suppose you're learning this concept of being patient. No matter what people do to you, you want to be just giving them immense amount of patiently, you want to just wait and accept it. So patience and acceptance is what is given. And so we have these situations. There are situations where in our workplace there is already a critic who is constantly irritating us. Some colleague is constantly irritating. Or this person who is coming and then cutting across while you're driving. There are always the road razors, right? They're cutting across. I don't know, at home, we have the daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, our son-in-law. They are nasty to each other. One does not see each other because one wants to control the other. Simple, right? Now all relationships break down because they want to control each other. So we don't see each other. So there is that. So every time we see these persons, because that some things have happened, every time we see a vehicle moving fast, those bikes, I also dread sometimes. Those bikes go zip, 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 zip like this. You don't know when they just come in front of your car, right? And so every time you see that, and every time you see a manager, or every time you see a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law at home, then suddenly an emotional adrenaline raises based on a record of the past experience. We raise it. It comes up, and that experience comes up, and then we feel like that emotion is there, anger is there, a frustration is there. And then we're about to do something. Either you just turn back into your room, if it's a home situation, or you just turn your head away like this and go away. Or as a manager, you just feel so bad about it that this guy is there to, again, put me down today. So any of those situations that we come across, our adrenal raises and then our body is changing. But at the same time, suppose if you're learning this book, reading that book, Conversation with God, nicely telling you, be patient. And then you like it so much that you started talking about it. Like here, you start talking about, what, this book has opened up my mind, opened up my eyes. It is giving me so much information, saying that everything is purely on me. It is nothing external. I can't blame anybody because I am drawing every situation in my life through my own thoughts and feelings. If that's what this book is saying, and then it's saying that you need to develop patience, because ultimately if you are the one who created a situation, then what's the point in shouting at somebody? You develop the patience and then step back and then look into it and say, why is it happening to you? If that's what it's telling you, like it, you start telling somebody else, your friend. And so by telling, you're repeating it. You see, learning and a repetition. So by telling, you're repeating it. So that friend is going and then implementing it, and then he comes back and then shares that experience and say, hey, because I applied that knowledge, and the last time I was very patient, tell you what, I had a beautiful incident with my daughter this time. I was patient. Thank you so much. So you learn more, so it becomes stronger. So on one side, when you are learning something new and then repeat it, it becomes stronger. And on the other side, when you're repeating these events, they're also becoming stronger, the negative events. Now the next time, when you are in a situation of a road racer cutting across, or seeing your mother-in-law, where suddenly a rush of all the past emotions come, and then you're about to break again onto suddenly lose your temper and then going to say something. But when you're regularly meditating, dear friends, the meditation is suddenly, before there will be a moment of time where meditation is suddenly bringing back all that knowledge you learned from this conversation with God, with your friends, and with your repetition of that experiences, because every time you learn, it is spread over. So there will be a spark where it brings back and says, hey, wait, you're seeing your mother-in-law, then are you going to just do the same reaction once again? That you don't know anything, just let me cook, so you don't interfere with me. Are you going to say the same? Or there is something called patience, understanding. So why don't you apply it? So that spark comes. All it takes is that spark. When the spark comes, then automatically our response, the moment that spark comes of this knowledge from the brain, then automatically we slow down from emotionally reacting. And the moment we slow down, then the beautiful thing happens. Now, this spark is now igniting sparks all over the brain, suddenly to pulling up everything about that patience and acceptance and understanding, that knowledge that we learned over a period again, because people have been sharing about it, your friends are sharing about it, you are implementing. All that comes back. So all that comes back and says, yes, can I be patient with my mother-in-law now? Can I be patient with this person who is cutting across? Maybe. Maybe he has to go to your hospital to see emergency situation. Maybe that's why he's going fast. That's a possibility. This is how we start thinking. So we start thinking, so we change our response. So we change our response, and at that point, we are a different person to the other one. So because you change our response, so now we stopped firing the old habit of becoming emotionally reactive. Instead, we started firing a new way of responding, acceptance and with patience. So now this became stronger, that became weaker. One time, is it sufficient? Not sufficient. We know that. If that's so many mothers, when we've been recognizing that, hey, I'm shouting, so many fathers who recognize that arguing, they'll stop. If it is only one time. No, it's a lifetime. We only learn and learn and learn over a lifetime, and it takes a lifetime to get over the anger. But meditation is a catalyst accelerating. So what's happening? So the meditation, when we do this, it's giving us making us self-aware and giving the sparks as often as it can. That sparks in that situation where, rather than losing our control, is bringing us the knowledge that we learn. So it's important. Then only when you have this knowledge, then you know how to apply something different. You got to have a different response to your situation. So the more we do it, so it's going into the subconscious. So second time we meet the manager in office, then again, you don't have this reaction that how to avoid him. First time you're avoiding him, second time you don't avoid it. Instead, you just go quietly to your chamber. Third time, you do it. You're going to chamber. Fourth time, you say, let me walk up to him and say, hi boss, how is the day today? And the fifth time, you want to call him proactively and say, hey, I'm already in office. What do you want me to do for you? So our reaction changes, response changes, we build it up, because the emotional reaction is becoming weaker and weaker, whereas this one is becoming stronger, dear friends. So from learning, we become do and do and do, repeat it, and then by the time we do it enough times, we become off it. We become of that patience. We become of that understanding. So when we have that quality in us, then we let others to have the same quality. Only when we have something, then we let others to have the same quality. So that's how we become. So the learning to doing to being, the brain requires us to support two things. One, we have to constantly learn newer things. And then two, we constantly meditate. Meditation is bringing us that spark. And meditation is also doing another thing. That glue, the neural glue, the neural networks, it is when one connection is strengthened, it's also drawing the neural glue that is lesser from other areas. So as it draws from the other areas, so it weakens the connections that are emotionally not good, unsupportive. Things that are not fired, the connection, the glue is removed from there and then applied to these things that are important for us automatically, because that's what is being fired. So meditation helps us to move from a learn to do to be state. And then we be of it. We become of that love, become of the compassion. Every time we practice gratitude, we become the gratitude. So we allow people to have the same qualities as we have, because what you have is what you can give to your friends. So it's important in the concept and understanding emotional intelligence. Important to understand how our brain itself is learning. And now that we understood that wherever we put our attention, wherever we relive an experience, you might have had a bad experience, but if you relive that experience with a lot of emotion, then we are rewiring the same thing. And we're going to learn later in the week or early next week the quantum physics model of how thoughts and feelings are creating reality. When you put these two together, it becomes so obvious that should I be even putting my attention on anything that is negative, anything that is unsupportive of my life? We become so aware, and that awareness will only come when we have regular meditation in our life, so that sparks keep coming to us, so that we take a different response. A lot of times, there is a stat that people live 50% more of an event. In the traffic event where somebody cut across me, and if I am driving and then I became angry and then I said something, but when I narrate the event to my friend, then I add more dialogues to it to make it more interesting and impressive, add more dialogue. So they live 50% more with that same emotion. So when you live 50% more, you are creating 50% more deeper feeling imagery, so that it's supporting you so much in the subconscious to keep projecting and then creating more of that incident. So next time you go on the road, what do you expect? The first thing that comes is the road, highway, oh, somebody will cut across and then it'll be dangerous. That's the thought. You project that thought, so what do you expect? You got to have that. So it's great to be learning this, friends, dear friends. So we're close to the time. Dear friends, thank you so much. So tomorrow we will do more sharing with our group meditation. So 6 a.m. once again we'll meet back.